Imagine this. You are 18 years old standing at the edge of a cliff. Below you stretches a vast, uncharted landscape, your future. A voice whispers in your ear, smooth and seductive. Follow your passion. It sounds like freedom. It sounds like truth. You leap, exhilarated, certain that destiny will catch you, but the ground never comes. Years later, you're still falling. The passion that once burned like a star has dimmed to embers. The career you chose, the one that was supposed to fulfill you, now feels like a cage. The hobbies that once electrified your soul have become chores. You wake up one morning with a hollow realization. What if passion was never the point? This is the dangerous lie of follow your passion. It's a mantra repeated in graduation speeches, self-help books, and corporate retreats. A gospel so pervasive that questioning it feels like heresy. Yet beneath its glittering surface lurks a paradox. The more desperately you chase passion, the more it eludes you. The harder you grip it, the faster it slips through your fingers. Why? Because passion is not a compass, it's a mirage. Think of the artist who abandons her craft after years of rejection, convinced she wasn't passionate enough. The entrepreneur who pours his soul into a startup, only to collapse under the weight of burnout, wondering where the magic went. The student who follows her dream job into a career that drains her will to live. These are not failures of effort or desire. They are casualties of a cultural myth, one that conflates passion with purpose, feeling with meaning. Consider the unsettling truth. Passion is fleeting. It waxes and wanes like the moon. It's subject to mood, circumstance, and the fickle whims of dopamine. To build a life on such shifting sand is to invite despair. Yet society tells us to do what you love, as if love alone could pay rent, sustain relationships, or weather the storms of doubt. What if the real question isn't, what are you passionate about? But what are you willing to suffer for? The ancient Stoics knew this. Nietzsche screamed it into the void. He who has a why to live can bear almost any how. Viktor Frankl survived Auschwitz not by chasing happiness, but by clinging to meaning, something deeper, sturdier than the ephemeral rush of passion. So why does the lie persist? Because it's profitable. A culture obsessed with self-fulfillment sells the promise of passion like a drug. Follow your bliss, buy this course, quit your job. The message is clear. If you're unhappy, you just haven't found your true calling yet. The fault is yours, not the system's. But what if the system is rigged? What if passion isn't something you find, but something you cultivate through discipline, through struggle, through showing up even when the fire inside you has turned to ash? This is the great question lurking beneath the cliff's edge. What if passion is the reward, not the path? The answer will unravel everything you've been taught. The illusion of the true self. You were told that deep within you lies a true calling, a singular passion waiting to be discovered like a golden key buried in your soul. But what if that key doesn't exist? Carl Jung warned of the dangers of seeking a fixed, unchanging self. The psyche is not a static thing, but a shifting landscape of contradictions. The more you hunt for a true passion, the more you fracture yourself into what you should be versus what you are. The result? A gnawing sense of fraudulence. The feeling that you're always on the verge of discovery, yet never quite arriving. This is the tyranny of authenticity culture. The belief that fulfillment comes from aligning your life with some preordained inner essence. But what if your essence is just a story you've been sold. The hedonic treadmill of passion. Arthur Schopenhauer saw it clearly. Human desire is a pendulum swinging between boredom and suffering. You chase passion because you believe it will bring lasting satisfaction. But once attained, the thrill fades. The new becomes mundane. The dream job becomes just a job. Neuroscience confirms this. Dopamine, the chemical we mistake for happiness, is not about reward, but anticipation. It spikes when you imagine your future success, not when you achieve it. The moment you arrive, your brain resets, hungry for the next high. This is why passion chasers are doomed to a cycle of perpetual dissatisfaction, always chasing, never catching. The industrialization of desire. Aldous Huxley's Brave New World was not a dystopia of forced obedience, but of engineered desire. People didn't need to be controlled, they were conditioned to want their chains. Modern society operates the same way. Social media, self-help gurus, and corporate wellness programs all preach the gospel of passion. Not because they care about your fulfillment, but because a restless seeker is a profitable consumer. If you're always searching for your true path, you'll keep buying courses, books, and retreats to find it. The lie sustains itself. The existential vacuum. Viktor Frankl observed that the primary suffering of modern man is not pain, but meaninglessness. When passion fails as a compass, people collapse into what Jean-Paul Sartre called bad faith, pretending their choices are inevitable, blaming fate when their dreams crumble. But here's the truth. Passion is not a destination. It's a byproduct of engagement. The sculptor loses herself in the clay before she calls it her calling. The writer sweats over sentences long before he declares himself a passionate author. Passion follows effort, not the other way around. The fork in the road. So where does this leave you? You have two choices. Keep chasing the phantom of passion, hoping that one day the clouds will part and your true purpose will reveal itself. Accept the terrifying, liberating truth that meaning is not found, but forged. The second path is harder. It demands that you abandon the fairy tale of destiny and embrace the messy, uncertain work of becoming. But it's the only path that doesn't end in disillusionment. The silent erosion of potential. You don't notice it at first, the slow creeping doubt. The projects abandoned halfway because they no longer spark joy. The careers switched in pursuit of some elusive, perfect fit. The hobbies discarded when mastery demanded more than inspiration could provide. This is the hidden cost of the passion trap, the atrophy of perseverance. When passion is the only valid reason to act, you become allergic to discomfort. Challenge becomes a sign you're on the wrong path. Frustration becomes proof you're not meant for this. The result? A life of perpetual beginnings, no true endings, a graveyard of almost was. The Stockholm Syndrome of self-optimization. Worse still, the passion myth turned suffering into a perverse badge of honor. You've seen the LinkedIn posts. If you're not obsessed, you're wasting your life. The message is clear. If your work ever feels like work, you've failed. But this is cognitive dissonance dressed as enlightenment. The marathon runner doesn't love every step. She loves what the steps represent. The scientist doesn't thrill at every failed experiment. He persists because the question matters more than the feeling. By equating passion with constant euphoria, we've pathologized the very struggle that makes achievement meaningful. The social contagion of misery. This sickness spreads. When a generation is raised on the lie that work should feel like play, entire industries collapse into performative enthusiasm. Burnout isn't just an individual crisis. It's the logical endpoint of a culture that treats ordinary human fatigue as a moral failing. Studies on vocational awe reveal the damage. Teachers destroying their health for the calling, nurses martyring themselves to the passion, artists starving rather than selling out. The most dangerous lies are those that turn exploitation into virtue. The neurological deception. Your brain is complicit in this charade. The mesolimbic pathway, your so-called reward circuit, lights up not when you achieve, but when you anticipate achievement. This is why the fantasy of passion is more addictive than its reality. Every time you imagine your perfect life as a novelist, entrepreneur, nomad, you get a hit of dopamine. But the actual writing, the grinding business building, the lonely nights in foreign hostels, those require a different fuel entirely. When the high fades, as it always does, you're left with a terrifying question. Was it all a mistake? The fork grows deeper. Now you see the trap in full. The passion myth turns natural struggles into existential crises, rewards fantasy over follow-through, makes quitting feel like wisdom, leaves you stranded between this isn't perfect and nothing ever will be. But there's a way out, one that doesn't require you to abandon desire, but to redefine it. The death of the passion paradigm. The first step is a funeral. You must bury the idea that passion is something you find, a preordained destiny waiting to claim you. The truth is far more terrifying and far more liberating. You are not born with a purpose. You build one. History's most fulfilled people did not follow passion. They cultivated it through relentless engagement. Michelangelo didn't wake up one day passionate about painting the Sistine Chapel. He became obsessed through the act itself. Marie Curie didn't discover her love of radioactivity. She forged it in the crucible of years of meticulous labor. The mastery paradox. Here's the counterintuitive truth. Passion follows skill, not the other way around. When you first learn the guitar, your fingers ache. The chords sound wrong, and the frustration is immense. But push through that initial resistance, develop real competence, and something magical happens. The activity itself becomes rewarding. The struggle transforms into flow. What began as effort becomes identity. I am a musician. This is the alchemy of mastery. Commitment precedes passion. You don't need motivation to start. Starting creates motivation. Skill deepens enjoyment. The better you become, the more intrinsically rewarding the work identity crystallizes. This is who I am emerges from what you consistently do, not what you feel. The anti-passion framework. To escape the passion trap, invert the equation. Choose struggle over spark. Ask not what excites me, but what problem is worth suffering for? The right question isn't about pleasure. It's about resilience. Embrace the 10,000-hour lie. Malcolm Gladwell's famous rule is misleading. It's not just time, but deliberate practice. Passion emerges when you cross the threshold from amateur to craftsman hunt for meaning, not euphoria. Viktor Frankl's lesson from the concentration camps. Those who survived had a why meaning can be found in three places: work, creating something of value; love, caring for others; courage, facing unavoidable suffering with dignity. The war against your brain. Your neural wiring will resist this. The dopamine system craves novelty. It wants you to jump from shiny object to shiny object. To rewire it, ritual over inspiration. Show up at the same time daily, regardless of feeling small wins. Break work into chunks so small that starting feels trivial. Environmental design. Make good choices inevitable. Remove distractions. Create dedicated spaces. The forging of a new self. This is the rebellion. To stop waiting for passion to strike like lightning and instead become the storm. When you commit to something greater than fleeting emotion, you don't find purpose. You earn it. The final revelation awaits. The grand illusion unmasked. Here is the secret at the heart of it all. Passion is not the cause of a meaningful life. It is the effect. You were sold a myth that fulfillment comes from aligning your existence with some pre-existing inner fire. But the truth is the opposite. The fire is lit by the friction of sustained effort against resistance. This explains why those who follow their passion often end up disillusioned, while those who commit deeply to difficult, worthwhile work find themselves, against all expectations, falling in love with the process itself. The twofold revelation passion is retrospective. No one feels passionate about something they're bad at. What we call passion is usually just recognized competence in hindsight. The musician doesn't love practicing scales. She loves being someone who has mastered scales, meaning manufactures passion. When you tie your work to something larger than yourself, ordinary effort becomes extraordinary. The nurse changing bedpans isn't sustained by some innate love of bodily fluids, but by the meaning of alleviating suffering. The existential algebra. Consider this equation. Passion equals mastery, times meaning immediate gratification. Passion equals immediate gratification. Mastery times meaning the denominator is crucial. Our modern crisis stems from attempting to maximize passion while minimizing discomfort, an arithmetic impossibility. The antidote to the age of anxiety. This understanding liberates you from three toxic cultural narratives. The talent myth. You don't need to be born for this. The perfect fit fallacy. Careers aren't discovered, they're constructed. The inspiration trap. Motivation follows action, not vice versa. The final choice. Now you stand at the threshold. Before you lies path A. Keep chasing the phantom of pre-existing passion, jumping from thing to thing as each fails to sustain your enthusiasm. Path B. Select something worth struggling for, then let the struggle transform you. Path B demands everything. It requires you to trade the addiction to novelty for the power of cumulative effort. Accept that frustration is not a sign you're wrong, but proof you're growing. Build your identity through action, rather than waiting for action to confirm your identity. The last question, when you're old and looking back, what will matter more? That you spent your life searching for the perfect fit, or that you chose worthy struggles and let them forge you into someone remarkable? The answer is your compass